What is up guys, Stark here. In today's video I'm going to be doing the character spotlight for the new event servant, Chacha. Now she is the event servant attainable in the second portion of the Gouda Gouda event, which has just released onto Global a couple days ago as of recording this video. And honestly, as with most event servants, she is definitely a character you want to absolutely get and max out. But because of her class and the way she works, she might not necessarily be a character that you use depending on if you're free to play or if you do spend a lot of money, or if you're free to play and you just happen to get lucky and pull a berserker. Anyway though, as I just said, she is going to be a 4-star berserker, and she is a really unique and different type of berserker, but that does kind of play into the fact why she might not necessarily be usable, but she is still a pretty good event character to begin with. So her stats at level 80 are going to be 11,025 HP and 8,945 attack. This will rank her 93rd overall in HP and 84th overall in attack. So she does have some pretty low attack stats, especially for a berserker. That is definitely not a good thing. If you do grail her out, she will end up with 13,368 HP and 10,831 attack. Her star absorption is 10, her star generation is 4.9%, and her Noble Phantasm generation is going to be 1.03 on her attacks and 5% on her defense. So moving on to her servant skills, her first servant skill is going to be the Golden Rule Misfortune B. This will charge her own Noble Phantasm gauge every turn for 3 turns, as well as increasing her own Noble Phantasm generation rate when taking damage for 3 turns. So this is a really good skill. Obviously, being able to generate your Noble Phantasm is going to be a huge thing, and she does have an AoE Noble Phantasm, which is going to be very beneficial for clearing waves and farming. So being able to have her first skill do that is going to be very helpful. Now you do get a 10% increase to your gauge at max level for 3 turns, so you get a 30% increase there, which is going to be pretty nice. And you'll also be able to increase your generation rate by taking damage by 50%, which is going to be really good. You already have a 5% increase to your Noble Phantasm when taking damage as base, so being able to get a 50% bonus to that is going to let her take a lot of hits and get her Noble Phantasm generated faster. The only downside to this is she is a berserker, and you really don't want her to take that many hits, and she does have low HP to begin with, so it is kind of a double-edged sword. You want to take those hits to get your Noble Phantasm generated faster, but at the same time you don't want to take the hits because you don't want her to die. Overall though, it is a very good first skill on a 6-turn charge time, so it's going to be very beneficial if you can keep her alive after taking those hits. Her second skill is going to be the Innocent Monster Flame C, which will grant her critical stars every turn for 3 turns, as well as reducing her party's critical star absorption rate except herself. Now this is going to be another one of those weird skills where it sounds bad, but if you use it in the right way, it's going to be good. So effectively, this is just going to let her generate stars so she can deal crit damage on her own, which is fine because she doesn't have good crit absorption anyway. You get 10 stars for 3 turns at max level on a 5-turn charge time, so this is going to be pretty good. It's going to be a very sustainable amount of stars. The only drawback to this one is that your other characters aren't really going to be getting that many stars, which is fine if you're not taking other crit dealers into your team. So if she's going to be your crit dealer, then they don't need the stars anyway, so you could just go ahead and absorb them all with Chacha to do more damage. So that's fine if you're playing it that way, but again, as you guys can see with her skills, they all do kind of have some sort of drawback to them. And then her third skill is going to be, in my opinion, one of her better skills, and this is going to be the Beloved Mistress of the Sun EX, which will decrease the defense for 1 enemy every turn for 5 turns. And this will progressively increase each of those turns. I only have the maximum stats on here, so at 5 turns it'll be a 50% decrease to defense on that enemy on a 5-turn charge time. So this is really cool. You could just keep recycling the skill. I mean, well, if the enemy dies before the skill is recharged, then obviously you'll have to wait, but you could theoretically just have this skill active at all times, so it's going to be very helpful for killing bosses and things like that. But you know, this is a very good skill. A 50% decrease in defense is huge, and you know, being a berserker, you'll do more damage, getting those crit stars to do even more damage on top of that. Overall, it does work out to be really good. This one doesn't have much of a drawback. I mean, it doesn't do a whole lot other than decrease the defense, but it's still a good skill. You're still going to do a ton of damage with it, and even, you know, on those first couple of turns the 10%, 20%, it's still good. It's still, anytime you can decrease the defense of an enemy, it's going to be very helpful. And yeah, like I said, if you do kill that enemy before the 5 turns are up, then you have to wait. But, a 5-turn charge time is still really low anyway, so chances are you'll be able to use this multiple times, and definitely be able to use it against the boss. And if you're in a longer fight, and you have to, go a lot of turns, then this skill is going to be even more beneficial to you, because you can always use it. Moving on to her passive skills though, she does only have one, and that is going to be the standard Berserker one, being the Madness Enhancement E+, and this will increase her Buster Card effectiveness by 3%. Moving on to her Ascension, she is an event servant, so she will require the event item to max her out all of the way. You will get these items by doing the fights in the event and getting points, and then you'll have to buy this item from the shop. So just make sure you do that. It's not really going to be that difficult to do. Just keep, doing the fights, stay active, get the points, get the items, and, max her out all the way. As for her skill enhancements, to max out one of her skills from level 1 to 10, you are going to need 14 gems of the Berserker, 14 magic gems of Berserker, 14 secret gems of Berserker, 12 octuplet crystals, 11 phoenix feathers, 12 lamps, 8 Scarab of Wisdoms, 1 crystallized lore, and 27,200,000 quantum pieces. As for the order in which you want to level up these skills, I would definitely say her Golden Rule Misfortune is the one that you want to level up first. You definitely want to have the most Noble Phantasm generation that you can get, so maxing out this skill as quickly as possible will help in that regards. Being able to get the full 10% for your gauge every turn and 50% bonus when you do take damage. After that though, you want to go with the Innocent Monster to get the bonus stars every turn, but you do want to be able to get the most stars possible, so you do want to focus on leveling this one up. But it's not as important as her first skill, so that's why that one falls second. And then finally, the one you want to level up last is going to be her beloved Mistress of the Sun EX. Even at level 1, on the 5th turn, you're still going to get a reduction of 30% to that enemy's defense, and it's going to be 10% at level 1 or turn 1. So either way, you're still going to get a lot out of this skill, and it's definitely not something you have to jump and go out of your way to max out. So you can take your time and max this one out after you have finished leveling up her other skills. Moving on to her command cards and her Noble Phantasm. For her command cards, she's going to have 1 quick, 1 arts, 3 busters, and she's got some really good hit counts as well. 3 on her quicks, 2 on her arts, 5 hits on her busters, and 4 on the extra attack. So you can make Buster Brave Chains and get a ton of hits in there and get a ton of stars back. Combine that with her second skill and you're going to have a very sustainable amount of critical stars at your disposal. So she does provide a lot in that regards. As for her Noble Phantasm, it's going to be a Buster Noble Phantasm that will deal damage to all enemies, as well as reduce their critical attack chance by 20% for 3 turns, and on the overcharge, it will inflict burn on those enemies for 5 turns. Now this does have 8 hits as well, so again, you're going to be generating a pretty good amount of stars with Chacha, which is going to be very helpful to do some little bit extra damage because she's really not that strong overall in the damage aspect. But she is good for, like I said, wave clearing, using that AoE Noble Phantasm as a Berserker. You're going to get quite a bit of damage, and as of right now, if you look at it, you're probably going to get her Noble Phantasm level 5. So she's going to be able to do a lot more damage. If you compare them to other characters, Noble Phantasm level 5s, she's one of the lowest in the game for Berserkers. But most people aren't going to have all of their Berserkers at Noble Phantasm level 5. So you have to look at it, her level 5 Noble Phantasm versus their level 1 Noble Phantasm. And when you look at it that way, she actually is one of the stronger AoE Berserkers in the game for Noble Phantasm damage. So just keep that in mind. Again, like I said, most people at this point probably aren't going to be able to find too much use for her or need to use her. But for newer players, for free-to-play players, she's definitely going to find her way into a lot of teams until they can get that better Berserker like Ku or, even Hercules. He's going to be a good option. But they are single targets, and sometimes you do need AoE Berserkers on your team to get the job done, and that is where she will find her way onto your team. Now for some of the craft essences that you could use on her. First up, as always, we will talk about her Maximum Bond Craft Essence, which is going to be the Adzuki Beanbag. And this will increase Noble Phantasm strength of all of your allies by 25%, but decrease their defense by 10%. Not a bad one, but it is pretty generic, as pretty much all maximum bond craft essences are. Some other good options are going to be a fragment of 2030. This will grant you 8 critical stars every turn, 10 on the max limit break. You know, this is going to be pretty good because she does generate a lot of stars with her high hit counts and her second skill. So throwing on a fragment of 2030 to get the extra 8 or 10 stars each turn is going to be very, very helpful to her and her team in general. Another good one is going to be the Volumen Hydragarium, and this will apply invincibility to her for 3 attacks, as well as increase her damage by 200. And then on the limit break, that'll go up to 500. So this is going to be really nice. It'll fix a lot of her problems, her being able to be invincible and ignore a couple attacks. So you can combo that in with her first skill to get the extra boost to your normal Phantasm. And you do get a little bit of extra damage there with the damage plus 200 or 500 to kind of help her low attack stats there just a little bit. And finally, you can go with the limited 0 over for the flat increase to your Buster card effectiveness of 25% and 30 on the max limit break. So now for some servants you can potentially pair her with. First up, for the free-to-play characters, I'm going with Mash. Being one of the best defensive servants in the game is going to be very helpful in keeping Chacha alive. As you guys see with her first skill, she does kind of need to be attacked to get that bonus for her null Phantasm generation, and she doesn't have much HP, and her being a berserker is going to be very difficult for her to stay alive. So Mash definitely helps with that, being able to drastically increase her defense and even make her invincible for a turn is going to be very helpful there for that. Another good one is going to be Hans. He's also going to be very helpful in generating stars, and he can also increase attack, defense, and heal Chacha. So he can basically do his best to keep her alive while she generates stars and does her damage and things like that. So another good combination there. For the rare recruit servants or the banner units, I'm not going with Merlin. I'm trying my best not to put Merlin on these lists because he just fits on any team, especially with Buster teams. So instead, I'm going with, first up, Nightingale. She's going to be very, very helpful with Chacha. They are both berserkers, but Nightingale is definitely more of a support berserker, being able to heal and increase Chacha's Buster card effectiveness. That's going to be very helpful for her. You know, I've said it many times, she's very hard to keep alive, so Nightingale will definitely help that, being able to heal her up. And then you can still get that huge increase to her Buster card effectiveness, so that's going to definitely help you. And then her Noble Phantasm will also heal as well. So basically you're just using Nightingale to buff up Chacha and keep her alive as long as possible. And then finally, I have Mysterious Heroine X Alter as the final servant to pair Chacha with. Yeah, she's going to be very good because she can, you know, grant herself critical stars as well with her second skill. So you can combo that with Chacha star generation to be able to get quite a lot of stars. And you can also combo Mysterious Heroine X Alter's third skill to reduce servants' critical star absorption. So that can combo in with Chacha skills, so you can really just reduce the star absorption of your other ally and then make sure that Chacha gets as many of those stars as possible if that's the route you're willing to go. You also do get a pretty good attack bonus for 3 turns with her third skill as well. If you really focus on making Chacha be your critical damage dealer, then comboing these two together will be very good. You'll get a lot of stars, and you'll definitely be able to make sure that Chacha will be able to get those stars, because Mysterious Heroine X Alter is also a berserker with a pretty bad star absorption rate. So if you're going to have Chacha be your damage dealer, the third character is probably going to be the one that gets your stars, so you really need to water down their star absorption to make sure that Chacha can get those stars. If not though, then you can just use Mysterious Heroine X skill on Chacha and make your third character be your critical damage dealer, and then they will almost definitely be getting all those stars. With Chacha and Mysterious Heroine X Alter having really low star absorption, that third character, whoever it's going to be, is probably going to have 100% crits on pretty much all of their cards, you know, as long as you use your skills and your attacks correctly to get those star generation going. As for the star rankings for Chacha, for her stats, she's going to get 3.5 out of 5. Being an event servant, she's already limited with her stats, but she does have really lackluster stats being a berserker, especially really low attack stats, ranking close to the bottom half of the characters in the game. So that's definitely not a good thing, and she is really weak for her HP as well, being really easy to kill, so just not good for a berserker. Her skills though, I am going to give her a 4 in her skills. There are a few drawbacks to the skills, but in the right hands, used in the right way, her skills are actually very good, and they're very helpful for her team and you can do quite a few cool things with them, but you just have to think a little bit about how you want to apply those skills into your team and what you're going to be doing in the battle. And overall though, you should be pretty fine. Her Noble Phantasm is also going to get 4 stars. I did touch on this a little bit earlier about how if you compare her Noble Phantasm 5 to other Noble Phantasm 5s, it's really bad. But most characters don't have Noble Phantasm level 5s for most people, so you can't really do that. You have to compare it to level 1 or level 2. And in that regard, she does move up the list quite a bit. And being an AoE Berserker, a free-to-play AoE Berserker with her Noble Phantasm is going to be very helpful for a lot of people. For her survivability, she's going to get 3 stars. You know, a Berserker with low HP, pretty much no way of keeping herself alive, no defensive skills. It's going to be very difficult for Chacha to stay alive, especially when you kind of want her to be attacked to get the bonus from her first skill. Yeah, really can't do too much there. You definitely have to take in some sort of servant to keep her alive with heals or defense or invincibility or something. And that will also drop her versatility down to 3 stars as well. There are definitely ways of using Chacha in teams to make the most out of her, but you really do have to think about it. You really do have to sit down and like strategize what characters and what things you're trying to do with this character to make her very effective. It can work, it can be done, and she's definitely not a bad servant, but because of how much effort you really have to put into coming up with good strategies for her, she definitely loses some stars in versatility. And that will give her overall ranking a 3.5 out of 5. Honestly, as a event servant, this definitely isn't a bad ranking, and she is probably a little bit better than her overall ranking suggests, but there are not a whole lot of spots where she finds herself useful. And to me, I'm just not a huge fan of the character, and I personally probably won't be using her too often. But that's just me. I do have a lot of Berserkers. But yeah, she's not a bad character. This is actually a pretty fair ranking for an event servant. We've just kind of been spoiled with most of the event servants being better than they probably should be. She's still usable. She's still pretty good. She does have her own spots in a few situations. So definitely don't be deterred by that, and still get her, still max her out. You definitely don't want to miss her. So yeah guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I do realize I forgot to play her Noble Phantasm earlier, so I will tag that along at the end of this video. Tomorrow will be Hijikata's Spotlight, so that will round up this event batch, and I should be able to get back on my normal pace for that going forward. So stay tuned for that. As always, I have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord, so feel free to check those out. I hope you guys liked this video, and I will see you guys next time. このチャチャからは日輪すら逃れられぬ。不平死しては朽ちぬ煉獄の者の